Hello, everybody. It's Betsy again. And today we're going to continue to combine like terms, but I made them a little more difficult this time. We're going to have to use the distributive property. So let's take a look here. In this first problem, we have a -3 on the outside. So it's -3 times everything in the parentheses. Just like this, positive 2x times everything in the parentheses. So we need to distribute that through. And how do we do that? We take the -3 on the outside and we multiply by everything on the inside. So a -3 times a +4 is a -12. And then we got an x cubed. Next, we got a negative times a positive, which is a negative. 3 times 10 is 30. Carry along your variable and exponent. A negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 6 is 18, x squared. A negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 9 is 27x. All right, so you see, the first thing I always do, because many of my students have always told me they struggle with what is the sign supposed to be. So I always do the signs first. If you can remember to do that, it'll help you with that, because I'll have some kids, they'll just write down the numbers and they won't put anything between the numbers. Well, they don't know what sign to put there. So I learned that early on. This is probably the best way to remember that. So let's look at the next one. We've got a positive times a positive, which is a positive. 2 times 6 is 12. But we've got to multiply this x times this x squared. Remember that x is x to the 1. And when we multiply and the variables are the same, we add their exponents. 2 plus 1 is 3. Next, we got a positive times a negative, which is a negative. 2 times 4 is 8. And then I got to multiply x times x to the third. When we multiply, we add those exponents. 3 plus 1 is 4. Then we have a positive times a negative, which is a negative. 2 times 3 is 6. And then we have x times x, that's an x to the 1. Remember, if there's no exponent there, it's understood to be a 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then we got a positive times a positive is a positive. And 2x times 2 is 4x. Whew. So when you're multiplying and the variables, the letters are the same, you just add the exponents. That's what I want you to get out of this. And remember, I think it's easier if you multiply the signs first. So now let's collect our like terms. We're going to put it in standard form, which means we're going to go from biggest exponent to littlest. So I'm going to start with my biggest exponent, which is an x to the 4th. You see how I circle the sign in front of the term also as part of that term. Any other x to the 4th. Here's an x to the 4th. And I think that's it. So if I got -30x to the 4th, and you have another -8x to the 4th, now you have -38x to the 4th. You see that's a 0. All right, now we did 4, so let's go to 3. Get a different color here. So I've got a -12x to the 3rd. And I got a positive 12x to the 3rd. Well, those are just going to cancel out to 0. So we don't have to put anything there. Next, we did x to the 4th, we did x to the 3rd, now we're going to do x squared. We've got a positive 18x squareds, and we got a -6x squareds. 18 is bigger than 6, it's positive, so our answer is going to be positive. The signs are different, so subtract. 18 take away 6 is 12. There you go. And now, so we did the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd. Now we're going to do x to the 1st. And let's see what we have there. So I'm going to go all the way through. I got 27 x's, and I've got positive 4 x's. So if I add those all together, I've got 31 x's, and that takes care of everything. If I'm doing this on paper, I usually just shade them out and color them out because it's easier to see the other numbers than the other terms. So if you're doing this on a piece of paper or Even if you're using a sketch pad, it might be easier if you completely cross them out as you put them together. I don't want to do that because I want to make sure you can see them. Whew. All right, let's get on to the next one. So we got 3 times everything in parentheses. Then we have -2 times everything in parentheses. Then we got -3x squared y times everything in parentheses. So let's get started. So I've got this positive times a positive is a positive. 2 times 3 is 6. I'm going to carry along my exponents. Then, if you want to put the plus there, so you remember that, a positive times a negative is a negative. 3 times 1x is 3x. Then I got a positive times a positive, which is a positive. 3 times 1 is 3. Now, here we've got a -2. So, and this is a positive. So a negative times a positive is a negative. We got 2y to the 4th, x to the 3rd. Then I got a negative times a positive, which is a negative. 2 times 9 is 18. Y squared x, got to carry those along. And then I've got a negative times a positive, which is a negative. 2 times 2 is 4. And then we got an x to the 5th. All right. Now this last one looks even a little, might be a little more complicated, but I think we can handle it. All right, so we got to take this, we got to distribute it all the way through, so multiply by every term. So first of all, this is a positive, there's no negative there. So a negative times a positive is a negative. Multiply the numbers out front. 3 times 2 is 6. We've got an x squared times an x to the 3rd. You add the exponents when you're multiplying. That gives you x to the 5th. Then you got a y to the 1. Remember, if there's nothing there, it's a 1. Times y to the 3, that's y to the 4. What'd you think of that? I think you can do it. All right, let's keep going. A negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 4 is 12. Then I got an x squared times an x to the 1. Add those exponents. 2 and 1 makes 3. And I got a y times y to the 4th. 1 and 4 makes 5. Now we got to do the next term. A negative times a positive is a negative. 3 times 7 is 21. Then I got an x squared and an x to the 4th. I'm multiplying, so I add the exponents. 2 and 4 makes 6. Then I got a y to the 1 and y to the 3rd. 3 and 1 makes 4. Now I've got a negative times a negative, which is a positive. 9 times 3 is 27. I've got an x squared times an x to the 1. Add those exponents, and then you got to carry that y along. Whew, that was a long step, you guys. So what did we learn there? If you do the signs first, I think it's easier. But again, maybe it's not easier for you. It's just a suggestion. When you multiply and the letters are the same, you add their exponents, all right? You multiply, you add the little numbers. Let's go on. We start to look for some like terms now. So we've got an x to the 5th, y to the 4th. Do we have any other x to the 5th? Right here, we got an x to the 5th, y to the 4th. Do I have any others? I don't see any others. Okay, now, well, you got 6 positive and 6 negative, those cancel. You don't have to do anything with it. Let's go on. Let's take a look here. We got a -3x. Do we have any other x's? I don't see any other just plain x's. We can bring that down. If you want to bring down the constant, feel free to. I like to do them at the end, but for this time, I'll just bring it down. So I got a +3. There's no other constants. Okay. Now, let's go on and do y to the 4th, x to the 3rd. Y to the 4, x to the 3rd. I don't see any more of those, so we're going to bring that down. Okay. Now let's see what we have next. We got a y squared x. Do I have any y squared x's? I don't see any y squared x's, so we're going to bring it down. And then negative 4x to the fifth. Do we have any other, just x to the fifth? I don't see any. I'm just going to bring it down. Takes care of that one. X to the third, y to the fifth. X to the third, y to the fifth. I don't see any more, so we're just going to bring it down. Okay, and then x to the sixth, y to the fourth. That's the only one, so we bring it down. And finally, we have a positive 27x cubed y. I don't see any other like terms, so that's the best we can do on that one. Whew, that was a long one, eh? All right, how are we doing? Leave me a message in the comments. If you feel I'm going too fast, too slow, I do appreciate what you tell me. So leave a comment if you have any suggestions. I'd love to hear them. I hope you have an awesome day, and thank you so much for listening. And I'd appreciate if you subscribe. La la la.